Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Mouth Motor City Madmouth, and we have a three-man crew tonight, which suits me fine. And one of the guys that suits me fine is Willie Epting Jr., the Shake Back Media Group.
Well, what is going on, good people? Thank you, Scott and J to the B, for having me on once again. I really appreciate it.
Oh, we enjoy having you, Willie. You're unbelievable, my friend. It's amazing some of the people I end up meeting in cyberspace. What a cool thing! And the man who has the shortest name on the planet, JB Ellis. Okay. So with that said, JB, welcome back to the broadcast.
I appreciate it. How's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing all right. I'm battling a stomach virus, but there was no way I was missing this show with my two buddies here, so it's okay. I'll deal with it and hope for the next 45 minutes or so that this vitamin water takes effect. It will be good to know. So, May 11th. Well, I got to tell you guys something. It's a date that I'd like to remember for all the wrong reasons. Because on May 11th, 1973, my grandfather, Sidney Morganroth, died 49 years ago of lung cancer. And after that happened, I vowed to never smoke, and lo and behold, I honor my grandpa's memory by never smoking. So I'm too cheap to buy those cancer sticks. And no offense, JB, I know you tend to have one here and there, but when I lost my grandfather, I wasn't going to be a part of that habit. So, Grandpa, this show is for you. And another death to report on, actually, in the basketball world, and I had a chance to meet this guy at Market Square Arena, is Bob Lanier, the former Detroit Piston and Milwaukee Buck. Bob Lanier, everybody knows, was known for his big shoes. And when I had a chance to meet Bob over at Market Square Arena out in Indianapolis, one of the nicest people you can ever meet. So rest in peace, Bob and Bob. We're thinking about you here tonight on the Sports Exchange. You guys have any comments at all on Bob Lanier?
Yeah, I just remember that he was a really, really big guy with the broadest shoulders of anybody that played basketball during that era. Now, unfortunately, I didn't watch him in his prime, but towards the end of his career when he was with the Bucks, and they used to have those epic battles with the 76ers, with Dr. J, and those other battles with the Celtics, him and Marcus Johnson and Sidney Moncrief on those squads. Yeah, you could tell that he was the enforcer of that squad and one of the enforcers of that time. So rest in peace, Mr. Lanier. You were a great one. Also, prayers out to you and your family, man, and all those that are connected to you.
Thank you very much, Willie. Bob Lanier averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and Don Nelson, in the worst way, wanted to get him a championship. But when you run up against buzzsaws like the 76ers and the Bucks at that particular time and the Celtics, those are some epic matchups for sure. JB, Bob Lanier, what does that name do for you?
Never got a chance to see him play, but I did get to see many of his beer commercials. He was such a likable guy.
Yeah.
Seeing his smile and just, those big shoes he had, he seemed like, it would have been fun to watch him play. I always liked watching big men, and he was one of the best when he did play, but, just seemed like a great guy, and it's a shame to see people like that pass. Like Willie said, prayers to his family and, friends. It's a shame.
Yeah, I believe he's 2 or 3 months prior to his 74th birthday. But if you ever saw his foot, and I remember back in the day when I stood next to him, like any big NBA player, he really looked like an ant compared to some of these guys for sure. But Bob and Bob, he made the Pistons relevant for 10 years. And that trade to Milwaukee, he was just a one-of-a-kind guy. So, all right. Well, I got 6 things I want to talk about, and I want to talk about it with you too. So I'm going to ask you guys what happened last night at Angel Stadium was a 12-0 LA Angel win over the Tampa Bay Rays. Position player Brett Phillips pitched in the 8th inning, gave up a home run for a 54-mile-an-hour pitch. Right-handed hitter Anthony Rendon hit a home run left-handed, but the big story of that night is 22-year-old Reed Detmers, who threw a no-hitter, the first of 2022. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's only his 11th start. He's a rookie, But I got to tell you guys, it's a legitimate no hitter. We didn't have a combined no hitter. We didn't have a guy like Clayton Kershaw taken out after 7. This was a legitimate no hitter. And the kid, when I was watching the sideline reporter, he didn't even know what to say. He was so young and caught up in the moment. So, what are
Mhm.
your thoughts, Willie, about the triple crown of a different kind out in Anaheim?
Well, number one, I always appreciate when a skipper will allow his player or his hurler to go out there and complete the job. I have real issues with this specialization pitching that we are seeing these days. I don't like it. The fact that you have a stat that's called a quality start these days just takes away from what I fell in love with about the sport. So number one, let's give kudos to Joe Madden for leaving him in there, and then the domination that Detmers put on was nothing short of remarkable. And a no hitter is a no hitter. And it's very hard to come by. It's one of the things that's on my sports bucket list to see. And hopefully I'll get to check that out before it's all said and done. But hey, congratulations. And the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I didn't think they would be here at this point of the season in first place in the American League West. So now you have Detmers along with Shohei on the mound and other pieces that they have. So if they can get something from this guy going for the rest of the season, the Angels are going to be something to contend with as we get into June, July, and August, and so forth and so on.
So you brought up the Clayton Kershaw 7 innings. I get why the Dodgers would take him out. The Dodgers have so much pressure on them. You can't afford to lose Kershaw. It was so early in the year, a short spring training, so I had no problem with that as much as it stinks to see. Reed Detmers, though, young kid, he's got a lot of talent, and it's about time the Angels are actually doing well. Maybe we could see Mike Trout play October baseball. And on top of Mike Trout, they got Ohtani, who's a phenom. So it's exciting to see what that team is doing. Hopefully they can stay, where they are, and we get to see Mike Trout play some meaningful baseball.
Well, JB, I mentioned those very things last night on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and to me that was pretty good. Now, I will say, Willie, I did have a chance to see only one no-hitter, and that was when Henderson Alvarez of the Miami Marlins threw it against my Detroit Tigers down in Miami. So that was a pretty interesting moment here, watching a team that I now cover against a team I grew up with and covered for many years. So that one is off my bucket list. So. All right, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to stay in Southern California, all right? So who should the LA Lakers' next coach be? I have a couple people in mind, but Willie, we're going to let you take a crack at it.
Well, the Lakers are my favorite team. You guys might be able to tell by the parking, or what is that on the back? Yeah, the whatever that thing is back there. I actually bought that from the Staples Center last year when my wife and I went out there to celebrate our anniversary. So I had been hearing that Terry Stotts was in the mix. I don't know if Terry Stotts is going to be the guy, the right guy for this particular position. I mean, when you got the personalities on the Lakers with LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis and whoever else they're going to bring back, I don't know about Carmelo Anthony. I don't know about Dwight Howard. But those three guys right there aren't going anywhere. So I don't know if Terry Stotts has the experience or the personality to deal with those guys in Los Angeles. I'm gonna tell you who I would like to see coach the Lakers. He should be given another chance, and that's Mark Jackson. I think Mark Jackson should come in.
You stole my thunder. You stole my thunder.
And not only did you steal his thunder, Will, you stole mine too. You mentioned Johnson. Mark Jansen. So I'm going to interrupt you and say GMTA. You remember what that meant from last week when I grilled you?
Yeah, I forgot.
We're gonna get him, JB. We will. We will get this guy. GMTA, come on, Willie. You didn't think I was going to quiz you at some point with it, right? Since you stole Stotts, hold on, and you stole Jackson. But go ahead, proceed.
Well, that's kind of what happens when you allow a mind like mine to go first.
Ooh, I don't know. Well, you know what? I'll drink to that, But folks, I'm drinking vitamin water. It's no big deal. So yeah, that's okay. I don't regret letting you go first. Yeah, it means we set you up pretty well. And obviously you read our mind, but I'm still waiting for the GMTA. What is it?
I don't know yet. So let me just keep going with this. But another coach that you guys might have heard of, he's a 2-time champion at the NCAA level, and that's Jay Wright from Villanova.
That's interesting. Jay Wright, though, do you think he wants to come back, JB, or take a year off?
Listen, if he wants to come back to coaching and you got a chance to coach the Lakers, I would do it in a second. It's a dream job. It's not, going out to Milwaukee. It's not going to Cleveland. It's not going to, Utah. It's the Lakers. If you get offered that job, you don't need a year off. You need to get on a plane, fly out to the West Coast, and take the job immediately. But, in all honesty, if I'm them, I'm going after a guy like Mark Jackson, or somebody that's tough. I think Jackson got a raw deal in Golden State. Steve Kerr gets all the credit, but Mark Jackson built the team. And as a St. John's guy, it kills me to see that because, I love Mark Jackson from back in the day. And I thought he did a great job when he was in Golden State. Another guy, being from the New York area, if you can get, maybe Van Gundy to come back, possibly. Tough. You need a tough-nosed guy because you got to toughen Anthony Davis up. He, on our show we call him Glass Joe. He finds the weirdest injuries. He's probably one of the most talented guys in the NBA. He could be arguably the best player in the league if he stays healthy. But every year it's a combination of multiple injuries that take him out, and they're always strange injuries. So it's a shame to see that he can't stay healthy. And LeBron definitely needs help. They have to find the right pieces to build that up, or go away from the whole LeBron experiment and start over.
Well, you know what? We have a majority here because I got news for you. Mark Jackson did get hosed because he didn't get another job by now. But man, I think ideally, well, number one, LeBron James. We know he's not a great general manager because he wanted Russell Westbrook, so we're not going to give him any points for that. But if Mark Jackson is saying, he has the endorsement of the best player on the team, all right, LeBron will give you that. But there's no question Mark Jackson should get an opportunity. I know another name being thrown out there is Darvin Ham, so we'll have to see where a lot of that goes as well. But I'm with you guys all the way. Mark Jackson, clear cut is daylight. And Terry Stotts did a pretty good job in a small market place in Portland, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But Mark Jackson all the way. And by the way, Willie, GMTA stands for Great Minds Think Alike.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
I won't forget it again.
Oh, I'm not worried. I have to hit you with it every week, as though it's providing you with a quiz every week. That's okay with me. I don't even care. Well, I'll get it in your head one way or the other, and you'll know where the heck it came from. So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I normally don't mention particular tweets here, but this one was just too good to pass up. Mike Leach, head coach, I think he's with Mississippi State, right?
That is correct. Hail State. Hashtag Hail State.
Right, there you go. So on Twitter, he says the horse Rich Strike won the Kentucky Derby, and he's a good example why an expanded college football playoff is needed. The horse hadn't won any races leading up, but he got his chance, and look what happened. You know what? Anything that, to me, Mike Leach says, I'm okay with it because he's a pretty colorful character anyhow. And, we've talked about they really do need to expand the college football playoff beyond 4. But I like the candid nature, JB, for which Mike Leach went out there and mentioned it.
Listen, the fact that you could win a Power 5 conference and not make the playoffs, and we've seen multiple times where 2 teams in the SEC have been in the playoffs, which means that you're leaving out, 2 of the Power 5 conferences automatically. That's just horrible. What incentive do you have that you go out and you win the Pac-12, the Big 12, and you're sitting home for the playoffs? That doesn't make any sense. And then you have, whoever wins the group of 5, that if this year they happen to get lucky, Cincinnati got in, but that doesn't happen very often. So, it's quite simple. You go to 6 guaranteed spots. The power conferences and the group of 5 get a spot, and two wild cards, or whatever you want to call them, the next 2 in the ranking. You're in. You got to get 8, and you're good. There's no reason not to do it, and the money that they would make on that would be astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, I could go 8 or I could go 12 either way, but anything's got to be better than what they have now. Right, Willie?
Yeah, I think that it should go to 8. I had initially said 6, and I actually had LaMichael James on my show last one. I want to say it was a year and a half ago. He was a Heisman finalist, I think in 2000 and whatever it was. Doak Walker winner, best running back in the nation a couple times. When we talked about it, I asked him about the same thing, and he actually liked it until I said, "Well, what about 6?" He said, "Well, why 6?" I said, "Because you can have you'll have all 5 Power 5 champions in there, and then you have an at-large." And I got to thinking, I said, well, I presented it to somebody else, but I like 8. And the reason why I say I like 8 is because the 2 top teams in the country, you can give them a first round bye. Okay. So now you're not really missing out on the best 8 teams, because it becomes a debate at that time of the year. Well, is it the best 8 teams, or is the most deserving 8 teams? And when you get to like last year, what happened with Baylor and Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game right here in Dallas, they were inches, and they being Oklahoma State was inches away from going to the I almost said BCS, going to the Final Four. So I think that it would allow for those fringe teams that are really, really good, and also it will overlap and blur the lines between who's the best 8 and who's the most deserving 8. Because when you get to those fringe teams, like I said, you're allowing for more of an opportunity for those teams to get in. And like you said, JB, it's gonna. I mean, I think you just said it, JB, about the money that it can make. I mean, look, the bowl seasons, huh? Oh, the bowl season is cool, but it's kind of antiquated,
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for 6, 8, and I still like the 12. I think ultimately all you're talking about is 6 games initially and then whittle it down. But, it all comes down to the almighty dollar. And again, I'm glad that Mike Leach went out there and talked about it. And then he references a horse that was, an 80-1 long shot to win the Kentucky Derby. And I can only imagine what the payback was for Rich Strike there, in terms of what he did. So, hey, I'm just glad that Mike Leach referenced the Kentucky Derby, and it gives us something to talk about as well. So, but I'm with you. But I think the one thing all 3 of us can agree is that they do need to expand it beyond the 4. And I'll make one other point too. That I know Texas and Oklahoma are making the move to the Southeastern Conference. When you have schools like that change conferences, Penn State and Nebraska got humbled when they went to the Big Ten, and things have worked out economically for those 2 schools, but they haven't worked out well competitively. So be careful what you ask for when you find out every single week you're facing these heavy hitters. I understand there was more money for Texas and Oklahoma to go to the Southeastern Conference. And me personally, I don't know how much the difference was. I think Texas and Oklahoma should have stayed right where they were. But that's just my opinion. You guys want to offer an opinion on that?
I hate when teams change conferences. I still, to this day, can't watch Syracuse, West Virginia, Cincinnati. They still annoy me that they left the Big East. I like when teams stay where they are. I hate teams moving. I hate the name changes. I like traditions, and you build up rivalries. I mean, Connecticut came back to the Big East in basketball because their football program was horrible, and I believe they got rid of it, or it's an independent now. Just stay where you are. Build up more conferences rather than consolidate to one. It just doesn't make sense.
Willie?
Yeah, I mean, I understand from an economic standpoint why these teams or these schools are doing this. For Texas and Oklahoma, though, I'm a little confused because they have been destroyed by SEC teams in past bowl seasons. So now you're going to go there and have to eat that crow every other or every week after week 3 or whatever the case may be, depending on the schedule. But, and it's going to make the Big 12 fall apart, in my opinion. They're not going to be nearly as strong. And, Oklahoma and Texas, I think Texas being right here in the Dallas area, people that are a fan of the Texas Longhorns think more highly of themselves than they really are. They seem to believe that Texas is a blue blood, which is I can't see why they would think that, other than the fact that for the longest time, UT was dominant in terms of recruiting, not just here in Texas, but really even out to the West Coast and even in Florida. But it's a different story now for some reason, and I'm a bit of a traditionalist too, but we're headed for a probably 2 or 3 super conferences, and the NCAA is going to be dismantled. That's my opinion.
Well, it's a good point. The only thing that this actually does, in my opinion, that's good, and there aren't many things that are good about this whole thing, Willie, but now Texas A&M and Texas have to play each other again. But other than that, you have those 2 rivalries for sure. They have to play again. So
well, it goes to show you how football rules the NCAA, because being a Big East guy, a St. John's guy, we don't have a Division I football team, so we had to stay in the Big East, which I'm glad because I like the Big East. But also on top of that, it kind of destroyed the conference at one point. We were by far the premier basketball conference. Then all the teams started realigning, and it changed up the whole landscape. And they built the Big East back up for basketball, but it was totally different when they did that. You lost a lot of teams that were rivalries, like you said, like with Syracuse when they went to the ACC. So it changed up a lot.
yeah, I mean, really, when you think about the whole thing in terms of rivalries and so forth, I to me don't think that Brigham Young is going to bring the appeal to the Big 12 that most people think, but yet they're independent and they're a school with a lot of tradition. But I don't know. All I can tell, I'll take a few words out of your mouth, Willie. Oklahoma and Texas are going to eat humble pie for sure by making this move.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the reason, in my opinion, why Lincoln Riley said, "Go west, young man, go west."
Right. All right. Well, we've got 3 more things I want to get around to. Kirk Cousins has a career record of 59-2, and this guy here has collected $161,699,486. My goodness, mediocrity gets paid well, doesn't it, Willie?
Yeah, and I don't know how much of the 59 losses is his fault. I'm kind of on the edge when it comes to a 1-loss record being a quarterback stat, because, I mean, by the numbers, Kirk Cousins puts up major numbers. I mean, like major numbers. And after 10 years in the league with 223 career touchdowns, only 91 picks, that's not bad. He's got over 32,000 yards passing, and he's a career 67% thrower. So he puts up terrific numbers. He's an enigma when it comes to this, because in Washington, they weren't that great, and then in Minnesota, they've gone to the playoffs a couple times. In that one year where they beat the Saints down in New Orleans, he actually outplayed Drew Brees. So I won't say that he's mediocre. He just needs a little bit more around him in terms of an intangible that I can't put my finger on, but his numbers are fantastic.
Yeah, well, they hired a new coach and Kevin O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we'll find out if Kevin O'Connell's influence does anything. JB, so give me your thoughts about Kirk Cousins, how he's made a lot of money from mediocrity.
I think he's got a bad rap. He played for the Commanders, the Redskins, whatever you want to call them, the team that plays in Washington, that is a football team, in case you didn't know, but American football. It should have been the Washington American football team, because if I was a soccer fan, I'd be confused. It's not his fault playing there. The team, weren't that good as a team. He, like Willie said, his numbers weren't bad. He he's not a top 10 quarterback or a top 5 quarterback, but having him be your starter, you're going to get someone out there that gives you a chance to win if you put the right pieces together. If you would have put him on the Ravens team with Joe Flacco when they won the Super Bowl, they'd have been better than they were. So when you look at, he's not a bad quarterback, but he's not the guy that you're going to go out there and say, "Oh, I want to get him to help me, elevate my team." But if you have him, you're not saying, "Oh, I have him. We're going to lose because we have him." He needs help. He needs a really good team around him. But he's serviceable. I wouldn't be upset if that was my quarterback. I'd take him over Daniel Jones tomorrow.
Well, I mean, hey, no, there's no question the guy is a pretty good quarterback for sure. But he's a better agent and negotiator, knowing that he don't mind playing on that franchise tag every year. He's got more guarantee money. So I guess my only thing is he a better agent or a better quarterback? I don't know. We can just go out there and have a lot of fun with it. That says playing on the franchise tag isn't the worst thing in the world. You're going to get paid anyways. And if he keeps rolling up decent numbers, it doesn't matter. So all I can say with Kirk Cousins, like Bobby Bonilla, more power to you, my friend. If you can get it, negotiate it any way you want, no problem. But, hey, let's face the reality. 59-2 is the record. And you're talking about a guy that's making close to $162 million a career. I think he's going to be set up for a while. All right, well, let's go on from one quarterback to another. We all know the big story this week is that Tom Brady, 10-year contract, $375 million from Fox when his career is over, and he's made around $300 million in his 23-year career. And Fox said you can have the job when you're ready to stop. So they're not saying he has to take it next year or not. So I can say one thing about Tom Brady. I don't anticipate any concussions in the broadcast booth. And I'll tell you, his head on was straight when he negotiated that deal. And more power to Fox. You get yourself a big name color analyst. Once upon a time, Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls and he's employed by there. So Fox doesn't shy away from Super Bowl winning individuals. Willie, your thoughts about Tom Brady? More power to him. And besides that, he's a Michigan Wolverine guy. Gotta love him.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still holding a 21-year grudge against Tom Brady, and he finally admitted it the other day that it might have been a fumble. Well, thank you for telling us something that we all already knew. But in terms of what he's going to be doing in the booth, you think about who is going to be doing this job that's either now or by the time he does retire in 2048, that who's going to be in the booth by that point. You got Troy Aikman, you have Tony Romo, you have Drew Brees in studio, and then you have Tom Brady that will be there. And the number of dollars that they're giving him, that is what I think the most the season made in one season may have been $25 million a year. And that's now with Tampa. So he's getting a $12 million raise to talk about football and not have to put his hand under somebody's butt and not have to worry about Von Miller coming off the edge or Aaron Donald coming up the middle. I think he's going to do a fantastic job because obviously he's seen everything from a X and O's perspective. Now let's see what kind of personality he really has to be able to do this job.
JB.
Listen, Tom Brady, I want to know if Fox comes to him and says, we need to bring in Gronk. Would you restructure your deal and go down to like $30 million? Would he do it? Because he's been doing that for years where he's taking less money. Mm-hmm. No problem with what Fox did. They got a name. People are going to watch because it's Tom Brady, whether you love him or hate him. I've listened to him with his thing that he does with Jim Gray on Westwood One. He's got a really good personality. I'm not a huge Tom Brady fan, but listening to him do his interview with Jim Gray, he's actually pretty good to listen to, and I do enjoy it. So if I can listen to it in the car when, during the Sunday or Monday night game when it's on, it's worth listening to. He'll need to learn it like anything else, but Tom Brady seems to, whatever he picks up, he seems to learn and do well. The question is, does he make the most money in his house now? That's the question.
Right. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, he's not afraid to study. Obviously, we saw what he did with New England and Tampa, so that's all worked out. So all I'll say about Tom Brady is more power to him. And at least he set up afterwards. And to his wife, Giselle, I think she'll feel a whole lot better with him in the broadcast booth than she will on the field, knowing that, hey, you know what, you can't get hopefully hurt up there. So more power to you. All right, last thing I want to get around to talking about tonight is Madison Bumgarner goes 6 1/3 innings and a 9-3 win over the Marlins yesterday. I was actually at the outing his last week when he was thrown out of the game by Dan Bellino, which subsequently led to an apology. So he gets a win last night, but he got tossed after one inning. So I guess the question I'm going to ask you guys is, well, number one, Madison, more power to you. At least you lasted more than an inning. You got another win anyhow. But do you think, Willie, that the umpires tend to really go out there and take over, and they're put too much emphasis on them and not the players?
Oh, absolutely. Now let's just put this out there, because obviously we're not talking about all of them. And there's this guy that comes to mind, and then there's Angel Hernandez who comes to mind, who is just a he's a I don't even know have the words to describe him. But I actually heard something after the Hernandez fiasco, and the way that these umpires are graded. They said that it's like a third grader could, or it's like a person that's a senior being graded on, third grade work if you're in high school and then you're in elementary school. So I absolutely believe that some of these guys, man, have taken it a little bit too far and putting the onus on them instead of doing what they do or what they're supposed to do. Look, the best games called by any official are those that we do not have to talk about them whatsoever. We don't want to be talking about a missed ball or a miscalled strike, or like Angel Hernandez did in Detroit when he called the runner safe when he was clearly out before replay. You don't want a situation where there was the deal that took place in the NFC Championship game against the Rams and the Saints, where that was an obvious pass interference call, and we still talking about that. Umpires and officials and referees should not be talked about that way and for that long. And the only way for them to do that is to get it right and get it right and get it right and be consistent with it, especially now with replay everywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, number one, watching Bumgarner get tossed, I think he was checking his hand for a sticky substance. Things went on a little bit further, and then things got really, really heated. You know what happened thereafter. So it's safe to say he only had one innings worth of work, and yet he followed up with the Marlins with 6 1/3 and subsequently got the win. The Diamondbacks did win that game 8-7, but I'm with you, Willie, all the way. You don't want the umpires being part of the total show. You're to be seen, but not totally heard, because that way you're really overshadowing things. So, JB, any takes on this?
What happened with the molestation of Madison Bumgarner's hand was disgusting.
Yeah.
If he had a sticky substance and that was why he was doing it, by all means, I would get it. But it certainly didn't look that way. And, I look at it this way. There's two different issues. One is people bring their children to the game so that they can watch their heroes, whoever they may be. Everybody has a different guy that they look up to. So if I brought my son or Jordan to the game and they were Madison Bumgarner fans, and that happened after an inning, I'm outraged. That's the time I have with my family I can never get back. And that's what baseball should want to be. We're the family sport where you bring your children and your friends and you go see the guys you look up to play in a game. And, because of the umpire, that was lost. Then, you also have people that bet on the game. Betting is mainstream now. That totally changes the outcome of what's going to happen in that game. There's millions of dollars that change place in all these different states, because we could all go on our phone now and gamble anytime we want on the game. So now you totally played with the results. So there's two major issues why I don't like that at all. As far as umpires becoming part of the story, I think part of that's because replay is so involved now. They're not afraid to get anything wrong. Back in the day, if you're an umpire, you called it like you saw it, that was it. You didn't. If you made a mistake, you made a mistake, but you did your best to get the call right. Now in the NFL, a perfect example. We'll let the play run out. Who cares? We're going to replay. We don't want to stop it because then it's a dead ball. But if we let it go, we'll just replay it. The team will challenge it, and whoever's right's right. It doesn't matter. What kind of horrible thing is that? Make the call the way you think it is. That's your job. You're trained to do it. And if you're wrong, it happens. Nobody's right 100% of the time. But you're the official. No one buys a ticket to see the official. Mm-hmm. I never said, let me go see Angel Hernandez and how bad he can call balls and strikes. How he keeps his job. If any of us showed up to our job doing that, if we were talking about umpires right now and I started talking about, I don't know, my car in the driveway and what a great car it was for the next half hour, you would be like, JB, you can't come back on here. We're talking about this. He calls strikes that are nowhere near the strike zone. And it's consistently bad time after time, and they do nothing about it. The umpires union in baseball is way too strong. I get that you got to feel safe in your job, and I'm for unions, but that's totally out there. And nobody ever bought a ticket to see an official, so they got to just step out of the way, call what they think is the right call, and understand they make mistakes. But that's part of, I think, replay creates that problem because they're not afraid to make mistakes anymore.
Yeah, well, the amazing part when you talk about replay, we all know that Jim Joyce botching the Armando Galarraga perfect game, which would have been the first in Detroit Tiger history, set the stage to me for what subsequently become replay. Well, you really bring up some great points in terms of the betting and taking the child to the game, only for the umpire to steal the show. So, but no, those are some really good points. So, anything else you guys want to go ahead and add about this before we call it a night?
Yeah, the other thing too, do you guys remember the Kyle Schwarber when he got thrown out of the game?
Yes.
That type stuff. That was Angel Hernandez again, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Because I retweeted the video.
Yes, because he was like, you've missed high, you've missed low, you've missed outside. And I'm just floored as to, it's like being a weatherman. You can be 50% right or 50% wrong and get a raise.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, every umpire has a different strike zone. We're lucky we're watching the game on TV. Unless you're there at the game, you see the little box. All the networks do it. So we know what a strike should be based on where the pitch is. But at the same time, if you're behind the plate call of the game, I get that the strike zone may be a little bit different from how you're seeing it. It should be perfect, but I don't expect that. Just call it consistently. If you're calling a strike on the outside corner the whole night, call it for both teams, and that's great. If you call the high strike, that's fine. Don't call it the first inning a strike, the third inning a ball. You can't do that. It's not fair to the pitchers. It's not fair to the batters. It's hard to lay off pitches if you don't know if it's going to be a strike or a ball.
Yeah, all you want is consistency on both sides. That's it. And as long as you have consistency, then it'll avoid a lot of conflict. So, well, guys, we touched on some pretty interesting topics. I enjoyed, what we came across. Any closing thoughts from either of you guys?
Yeah, I just want to say again, man, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. Anything that I can contribute to the team, of course, depending on the availability and in a perfect world, I'm always down to help people to expand their brands and talk sports in real life. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys.
Well, Willie, all I can tell you is you're a first-class pleasure. Good friend, pleasure, know your stuff. Like I tell you, you know what? And JB, the same holds true for you. You guys are both friends, and anytime we have an opportunity to talk sports, and hopefully somebody will get something out of what we're doing, which I know they do. I should point out the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, and you can also see it on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. So all right, with that said, Willie, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Well, I'm all over the place. On Twitter at Shakeback Media Group. Also on Instagram, same handle. I'm on LinkedIn under Willie Epting Jr. Shakeback, www.shakebackgroup.com is our website. We're also on TikTok. We also have a Roku TV network channel. You can search Shakeback no matter what there. Also on YouTube as well. And if there's anything else out there that I'm missing, oh, I got a shout out to the BGC Sports Network right here in Dallas. I got 2 shows there. The hashtag Brothers of Baseball. I got a new show out now. It is actually playing right now. And then the Shake Back Sports Show that actually plays on Saturday and Sunday. Both shows 12 and 6, all the way around the clock, Central Standard Time.
In other words, you're busy.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, JB, let everybody know they get a hold of you.
So JB_ the program on Twitter. I don't know if it's JB Ellis or Joe Ellis on LinkedIn, but there as well. Facebook. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30. YouTube, Twitter. You can see all my shows on my Twitter, JB_ the program. But download the YouTube for Sideline Sports. We got shows 7 nights a week, so you definitely want to check it out. Also, DB&A Television every night at 3 a.m. And pretty much all over anything that's going on in sports.
And of course, you're a big help. Both of you guys are a big help to us in social media, and you make your weekly appearance here on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, regardless of the show. You guys are always a part of it. Always appreciate what you do here. All right. Well, obviously, my voice is a little taking a bit of a hit today, but at least people can probably hear me. Hopefully, good enough. You want to reach us, go to www.southfloridatribune.com. Email us southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Our Twitter account is @TribuneSouth. And please don't forget to subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. We have a lot of great shows that are in the pipeline. And if you've missed any of our other shows, by all means, go out there and check them out. And, of course, you can reach me, Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn as well. So, meanwhile, guys, enjoyed the opportunity to work with you guys again tonight. And meanwhile, until the next time, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thanking Willie Epting and JB Ellis for being on the broadcast. And one last note, Grandpa Sidney Morganroth, I love you very much. It's hard to believe it's been 49 years. But you know what? It's really neat to be able to record a show on this particular date, so I have an opportunity to mention it as well. So whether they're hearing it on iHeart or whether they're hearing it on, seeing it on YouTube channel, it doesn't matter. And again, Bob Lanier, rest in peace. So, all right, everybody, you take care. We will catch you the next time. Good night here from the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network.